Hey folks, welcome to another episode of 5 to 15 with Musickers. I'm your host, Jason DeCristofaro, and I'm thrilled to be here today with my friend Derrick Gardner. Derrick,
Yes.
thanks so much for being with us.
Absolutely, man.
And I have to give you additional props because today is Derrick's birthday. So
Yay.
happy birthday, Derrick.
Hey, thank you.
His dedication is unrivaled. It's his birthday today, and right before the interview I came in and he was teaching a class full of elementary school students. And this is your 14th year as an elementary music educator here at Brevard Academy?
Yes, all 14 years have been here at the Academy. Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. How did you get into this job as an elementary music teacher?
It's kind of an interesting story. So I went to school at Tennessee State University, and I got to the end of my student teaching time, and I graduated in December, which if you're a music educator and have been through music school, you know that that's a perfect time to graduate because there's the best jobs available in January, which I'm joking about that.
Sarcasm. That was good.
Yeah, but so I spent about 5 or 6 months playing the music industry in Nashville, which is a great experience. And then while searching for jobs, and I had the idea of being open to moving anywhere in the Southeast. And so I kind of took some advice from a lot of friends. They told me, hey, just dress up in a suit and go show up and talk to some principals and, tell them, hey, I exist and I'm eager to take a job, and but then I also at the same time put these applications out. I used a website called teachersteachers.com, and not sure if that's still open now, but basically it's kind of like those job search websites where you put your basic information in. You say, hey, I'm a person who has this degree and I'm looking for a job in these states. And then so anybody else who's using the site will be able to match to you. And so I had about 15 hits who all kind of reached out, and Brevard Academy ended up being one of them. They contacted me. I said, yeah, I'll drive over for an interview. I got up at like 3 a.m. and drove over from Nashville and got over here, did an interview, and spent the rest of that day trying to find the town because it was so small.
Right.
And I was going like, okay, where's the rest of it? And never could. And I ended up taking kind of a leap of faith and moving over to Brevard. Never had heard of the area before, and it's been great 14 years later.
Yeah. Well, and you're so active. I'm glad you mentioned that aspect of you working as a performer in Nashville because you're very active still. I don't know how you do it. You teach 5 days a week, from early in the morning, and that's not including all the prep time and everything else. People think teaching is just, you show up and teach class. They don't see all the work behind the scenes. But you're also active as a performer, and you write a lot of music, and you've put out a lot of music. So I guess, what does a typical day for Derrick Gardner look like juggling all these different tasks?
So if you want to know what my day looks like, you got to look at my calendar, my Google Calendar. I got to the point of over a decade ago where I realized that it was too much stress to try to put things on my brain. And if there's anybody who's feeling that way, here's what I suggest is just give it all over to a smart calendar. And my calendar tells me where I'm supposed to be, what time I should be there, and anything else as I plan things. And so if you were calling me for a gig coming up 3 weeks from now, I think we have something actually coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks.
We do.
And so where it's in my phone, it's telling me even I put down details of what time it is. I put my address and everything, and what I need to wear. All these things are in there, and so then I set up reminders about a week out. And so a typical day for me is me looking at my phone and saying, oh, okay, I'm supposed to do this tonight,
Yeah.
And so, Monday through Friday I'm here, but I'm out, on Fridays, Saturdays, sometimes even Sundays, out playing shows. And so just kind of keeping up with all the things. What I do is I just heavily rely on smart calendars,
Well, technology, that's critical. When you think about the role technology plays, it's such a helpful thing. And in the teaching profession, because you've been doing this 14 years, so you think about all the tech changes that have happened in the music education industry in that time period. What are some things you've seen as they relate to technology in the last 14 years?
In the world of education and technology, I think what happens is that we have access, and there's so much information that's available for teachers, for kids, that are available. And so if the first wave of it is, wow, this is incredible, we use these things in such a great way.
Yeah.
But then I think that the side effect, I would call it, is that because it's so accessible, it goes to our short term, even our fleeting memories a lot of times. And so, and it's because it's the comfort of knowing that that information is always there. And so what ends up happening is, say you've got a student who is working on, as we're working on today, reading notes, because there are so many tutorials available, they just know that it's there, and they say, well, one day I'll go and do that. I already know I can go do it. And what happens is time will just go by,
right,
and they haven't done it yet because there's no pressing matter of like, oh, I gotta know this information before my next class. I can always just go and Google it. I can go and look it up.
Right.
I can always go to a YouTube tutorial. If it came up to a pop quiz and I needed to know it really quick, I can always go do it. And so then we don't take that learning in our own hands as a generation probably before would do, and they would go and say, okay, I've got this. I'll go and learn on my own,
So that's something you've seen your students in the last few years, I guess. So the accessibility is like a double-edged sword, it almost sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that that points to also the importance of teachers, because you're not just a content delivery person. You're really a guide, you're a facilitator that helps hold young people accountable for their learning.
I often like to think of in teaching, especially music, we're teaching kids how to learn, and it's not just about the information, but it's about how you take the information, how you synthesize it, how you make the book or method book or whatever you're using a resource, and so you're teaching them how to go and find things. And so as much as I am a teacher, I'm also a teacher of learning, in that sense where I'm trying to get them to understand, hey, if you don't understand something, this is how you take that lesson and take that next step. Oh, well, while your friend is still working on this other concept that they might struggle on, here's a way that you can push forward, and then constantly reminding kids that there is no finish line in music. A lot of times they think that, well, at the end of the 5th grade, we get to the end of this book, or the end of 6th grade, we get to the end of the book, and that's all it is for this grade to know. And I'm like, no, there's 5th graders all across the country and all across the world who take that learning and they've blown that book out of the water, and they're going on. And as much as I can get the kids to see the big picture, and not just the thing that's in front of them, is an important thing. And so some of the tech changes that we're seeing right now coming across the cusp, and it's a hot topic right now, but I know our school is being real forward about trying to use it in a positive way, is AI, and
yes.
It's an exciting thing. It was kind of like, scary a little bit, kind of thinking about, oh, well, then does this replace us? But no, is if you use this to synthesize material, to expand on a concept. I got ready to take my 6th graders on a field trip to Greenville to see Ballet Hispanico.
Oh, cool.
And in preparation for it, I typed in, information about okay, I'm taking 6th graders on a field trip to see a ballet. What do they need to know before that ballet to help them understand what they're about to see? And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, they probably need to know a little bit about history of ballet. The ballet is a dance. You won't have singing going on. You're going to have a story interpreted through dance. But then I typed all this into AI, and it was like, oh, well, have you thought about this? And it's taking us basically information that educators and people have put all across the world that's on the web, and it's synthesizing that all to me to hey, here's a quick read of some things you can do, and expanded it so far, and I was able to give those kids such a rich experience because I was able to go and say, oh, so here's some things you can think about as you're watching this ballet, and look for these kinds of clues, and these are types of ways that the Hispanic culture has used dance historically, because on my own power, I wouldn't have thought of this thing so outside the box. So,
well, it's what you mentioned about the smart calendar. It's a powerful tool, and when you're working from sun up before sun up to beyond sundown to prepare curriculum and prepare a lesson and everything else, it's really almost a necessity because there is
Yeah.
so much information to handle.
Yeah.
And in that sense, that's, I think, a benefit of AI. Do you see any negative side effects to AI, at least at this stage?
At this stage, no.
As they relate to music education, of
Yeah,
course.
as it relates to music, I haven't seen it yet. Not just yet. I'm quite sure, as with all good things that come around, someone will figure out how to abuse things. I'm quite sure you probably have all kinds of copyright issues you probably have coming up in the future and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
on this end of it, I don't see a ton of drawbacks just yet. We're such in the early stages of it. That's the stuff that's been released to us so
True.
far.
Yeah.
And so, but coming down the pipe, besides the general sense of, like I stated before, is, of becoming kind of dependent on kind of a last minute thing, like we talk about here with our teachers. It's like, AI is quick and is super accessible and it's easy, but don't use this 5 minutes before you get ready to walk into a classroom and try to, like, okay, let's
Right.
read off this thing that the computer just
Right.
generated for me.
Right. Right.
This is not the way you use that technology. You use it to expand your thinking and get outside the box, so you don't have to read 20 books, before you start to present on a historical topic or something like that. So
This is all really insightful, and I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
We could just talk about AI for the next
Yeah.
hour in education.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm really curious about, because you really eloquently captured, I think, the importance of music education, especially in this
Yeah.
day and age when there's so many people who are like, well, I can just watch it on YouTube. Why do I need a music teacher? What you gave earlier was almost, I feel like a great advertisement for like music advocacy or music
Yeah.
education advocacy. I think that's the thing that, for me personally, is also really of particular interest, because you and I think a lot of our viewers understand the importance of music education.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a weird industry because it's a big industry,
Yeah.
but it's also an industry where the people who are on the ground doing the work don't necessarily always get the support they need.
Yeah.
So for you, as somebody who's working day to day, I think you mentioned you teach 5 classes
Yeah.
a day, 5 days a
Yeah.
week. I mean, that's incredible. What are some of the challenges that you see facing you, and in what ways do you see, I guess the best thing, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, in what ways do you think the profession or career in the industry of music education, the people actually teaching, how can they best be supported?
It's a great question. I think that we sometimes, and maybe in yours feel too as well, we kind of get these kind of, oh, well, let's all support music education, and then we kind of get like these dumps of like, oh, well, here's $2,000, and like, here's some money, and then you go, okay, great, awesome, I can go buy 3 instruments with that,
Right.
great,
Right.
and that is supportive. I'm never going to tell anybody never to do those kinds of things, because those things are helpful. I mean, half the things we have in here, actually more than half, actually, everything I'm looking at around my room right now has been donated. So, definitely keep donations, keeps financial supports going. But also, I think, like, there's an element, I think, that doesn't often get supported, and that's kind of keeping with the this really idea of keeping kids motivated about doing it. So, there are kids on the football field who play their best because there are people in the stands cheering like crazy, and they know that their parents are going to be there, their friends are going to be there, and I think those same kids who are doing music would absolutely be rock stars if they had that kind of support and they had those kinds of things. So I mean, if it's coming to a band concert that's not even for a kid of your own, that's his way of support, because that increases those numbers. A lot of times, maybe those programs are taking up donations at the door, might be helping the program, but also those kids get a chance to be in front of a big audience,
Right.
And that's something I value here. Is I understand that what happens on the inside as a performer when you play that song that you've been working all year on. It's been such a big work. You've cried with it, you've laughed with it, and you finally got it. And you get out there and you have that moment. You play it in front of people, and they clap and they appreciate it.
Yep.
And you can't replace that feeling with any check or anything like that. And so
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing I think that a lot of times kids need that would help us as educators. Because if kids were motivated walking in the room and they were like, teach me the next thing, please. I've only had I won't say a handful of kids, but I've had a few amount of kids who says, can I learn more? Like I want to do more. Can you give me more things that's going to give
the
me
next level?
Right. I know everybody else is really kind of okay with where they are, but I really want to be challenged. Great, awesome. And a lot of times the key to that is that's usually a family that's at home and they're asking their kid, hey, so what's going on in music? Doesn't mean you necessarily have to have them oh, you need to have a practice regimen of 30 minutes a day and kind of give them structure, but just asking them, hey, so what song you working on? Oh, that's the same song you were working on 2 weeks ago. Like, what's going on? Why are you still working on that one? Yeah. Just those kinds of conversations are so helpful. I've got a few parents right now who I've been talking to lately, and they'll say, my kid's been playing the same song last month. Yeah, I know, man. I've been telling them to move on. And it's great conversation, but those kids are not able to stay complacent and not able to stay in the same place, and also usually end up being highly motivated. It makes my job easier to give them that next step, to motivate them to do the next thing, when they have that all-around support. So, as parents, if you're just a person in the community, that goes out and supports local programs, you're a professional musician, maybe people here are professional musicians, go in and hang out in a day, with kids that are in middle school who are honking around on some saxophone, and you're like, well, yeah, I play saxophone,
Yeah.
Just Jeff Sight, one of the greatest drummers I've ever met, he gave me this really insightful tip one time about education, and he said sometimes people gain value just from being around the professional, more than just actually learning anything from them. So even just if it was me, and if Oscar Peterson was still here, and if I could just sit and just, he just twinkled a couple notes and not even just did anything, and just sat in a room with me, it would be so inspirational. If you just think of your favorite hero, just being able to sit in a room. You didn't have to have a conversation, maybe. You didn't have to hear him play, but just being the presence of a person does a lot for you, especially in music, as a creative. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Derrick, always good to hang with you. I
Yeah,
could talk to you about this stuff for hours. We're out of time, I think. Before we go, are there any places online, any websites you have where people can check out your music or learn more about your different projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to have a website, and I let that go, and here's the reason why. There's a professional, great trumpeter named Derrick Gardner. Has the same name as me. And we haven't met yet, but over the years, we've all we kept having the same tags of websites and Facebook, and so I've reverted in the last few years to Derrick Gardner Keys. To allow him to have Derrick Gardner music. So Derrick Gardner, if you're out there and you're seeing this right now, you're welcome. I did that intentionally. I've let go of Derrick Gardner music just about in every place, and I went towards Derrick Gardner Keys to kind of give me a bit more identity. So if you search that in Google, you'll probably find biographies. You'll probably find my YouTube page, which has a lot of original music, as well as I keep a playlist going of live performances. I think a few of those with me and you. And so I keep a few tabs of different things that I have going on. So you find me on YouTube. That's a great place. Instagram is pretty reliable as well. I usually post things there as well. And I have a page for my music on Facebook as well, Derrick Gardner Keys. So, and they're all the same thing. My Instagram, Facebook, and the YouTube are all the same. So if you just remember that Derrick Gardner plays the keyboard, you'll find me.
Wonderful. Derrick, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Have a great day, y'all.